So again, we're here today to jump into building your co-op steering committee, time, talent, treasure, and trust. And today is April 6th. It's also my birthday. So
Well, happy birthday.
happy birthday to me. And there's actually, this is, for me, this is good. It's a good place to be spending my birthday, um, doing, doing what we're doing here. As I think that cooperatives are a pathway to our true liberation. But we're not going to go that deep into it right now. So just know I appreciate being here on my birthday, doing this session. But I am not going to stay for the whole thing because it is my birthday. So I just want to let y'all know. But I'm leaving you in good hands. Esther is highly talented. Definitely do her thing. So go over the agenda for this evening. We're going to talk about the steering committee and early stages of the co-op, team building, trust, and openness, shaping up your co-op, steering committee 101s, and moving towards operations. And then when your co-op is in operation, governance, practicing decision-making and voting, worker owner tracks, and member education. So, I'd like you guys to thinking about that agenda, take a second to type in the chat or unmute yourself, and let's hear about what would you like to get out of today's workshop. If you can put it into a word or a phrase.
I'll put it into a word. Hey, Brother Avery.
Hey, Sister Sada.
Yeah, I'll say I'm looking to get, just continue skills on effective relationship building and team building, right? Continuing just to learn how to develop, relationships and a spirit of shared responsibility.
And I guess I can chime in too. I think this is timely for something that our team is currently experiencing in terms of trust, in terms of, information sharing and how much information you share with people outside of the team. And, and so, especially in terms of proposal writing. And so I think this is going to be a good conversation to kind of balance that off.
And what are the basic responsibilities that people are committing to when they come to be a part of your steering committee? That's what I'd like to get out of tonight.
These are good. These are good. We definitely are going to touch on some of that. We may even get to all of it, but definitely all things that are going to continue to come up over and over. So you're just going to ultimately figure out how to deal with them better, because it never goes away from my experience.
That's right.
So, I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it's real life. So, yeah, that's good stuff. So the early stages of the co-op, that's the steering committee, generally, right? This is generally before the co-op even starts, right, is the steering committee. But it can also happen the opposite way, because I'm developing a steering committee right now for our financial cooperative that was mentioned, New West Virginia. We've actually been operating since 2017, and we've been cycling through steering committees and people who are going to serve that role and haven't quite landed on anything. And since then, since we've changed our name, we had to reform again, right? We changed our name to New Economy Works West Virginia. And it is with this group that we're able to move further than we have before with, with the steering committee process. But it should come before, but it might come after, it might come after you've already started. It's never a straight line. But again, it's generally before, and it may include, your steering committee may include outside members or folks that that are not intending to be a part of the co-op, but again, may have some shared values, want to see the venture succeed, may have certain skills that or a willingness to like help it move forward. And this is the perfect place to start to develop trust, again, to articulate, define shared values. Openness is important, not being afraid to try new things or take on things that maybe you're not uncomfortable with. Learning new communication styles and what matters to you, and what matters to each other. And the steering committee also can help define members of the co-op and to get into certain team building. So let's get into some team building questions, right? So I have some questions. So think of a time you experienced a great team. What made it great? And you can type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and say what it is, but think of a time you experienced a great team and what it was like.
I'll say something. My current co-op, which is a co-op that's reforming, we've been together for like 18 months, 2 years probably. And just consistency. We meet faithfully twice a week. People are very committed. They keep their word, they share deep value for the work and the people we work for. They're committed. So I'd say committed and consistent makes it a good team. And we care about each other. We show it in how we interact with one another.
Yeah, I love that.
I think good, open, honest communication, where people really say what they feel and believe and what's on their mind, and don't go after the meeting and saying things that they didn't say to everybody at the meeting or when we are together. Communication and being willing and ready to not only be honest, but take responsibility and accountability for, what it is that you are communicating, whether it's through your actual words, your behavior, and being okay with somebody calling you on that and bringing that up and not taking that offensive or taking it as personal, but that we share the commitment to what it is we're doing to the degree that we are willing to bring that to people's attention when they seem to not be. And there could be something standing in the way. I mean, that is valid. But if the people who are on the team don't know that, then, they're just up in their heads about what they believe is going on. So I think the communication is key.
Yes, I love it. Anybody else? I just want to kind of call out some of the, regurgitate some of what we just heard here about like what makes a good team, right? Consistency, keeping your word, valuing the people you work with, real and actual trust, being authentic, communication is key, accountability, shared commitment, right? So the long and the short is we all know what it takes to be on to have a great team, right? We know what we're looking for, right? And it's all of these things. And all of the co-ops that I've seen work, they take the time up front to like figure this, to figure this stuff out. And this stuff, it just kind of has to be there. You can't force people to have these qualities or to have these shared values, right? So, everybody's not necessarily on your team. So you can't force people to be in that, but that's okay, so know what you're looking for in your teammates, right? Know what you expect of yourself, right? Know what you expect of others. And that's a good place to start to figure out who is going to make up your co-op steering committee and who's going to be on your team. So think about the time you experienced a bad team, right? What made it a negative experience? Anybody want to talk about that? Sometimes I'll talk about it a little bit. Sometimes I've been the bad team member who can't show up and who didn't prepare for things and all that stuff. Sometimes we're going to be the bad team member, right? But if you're on a really good team, you should have some kind of system or process or way, or some of these other values like caring about each other can help you to get through those things when your teammates aren't able to show up how they normally would, right? So, but yeah, so think about that. What are some things that would made a negative team experience?
I believe what creates a bad team is a bad leader. Because if you have a good leader, although you have negative traits in some of your team members, you'll know how to capitalize and turn that negative into a positive, and through a positive, consistent message to that team member, it got to get better. So I throw it all on the team leader. That's what creates a bad team.
And I would say that it's really not on one person as the leader, but the sense of leadership among the people themselves. If the ball gets tossed to you, you need to be able to take the ball and do something with it.
Right.
And that's a sense of leadership versus I'm going to look to one person, and if it doesn't get done, I'm going to be saying all these negative things and, not even giving them the feedback. When the team members, that's one thing that makes a bad team is when the team members are not willing to give some feedback to improve the situation that we're all together in.
I think
Ms. Jones, I
both
think
hit
you
it.
just
Oh, no, go ahead.
go ahead. Well, I was just gonna make the point that Ms. Jones was making when I was speaking earlier. Some of the reasons why I was able to be a bad team member was because I had other folks on the team that had that sense of leadership, right? It was able, everything wasn't, so you want to watch being in situations where everything is always on you and nobody else can pick up some of the slack. Because guess what? I'm human and I'm going to fall short some days and sometimes a lot of days, right? So you want to be conscious of not being the one that's carrying everything for the team. But go ahead, Ms. Pender.
No, I agree 100%. And I was just going to say, I think it's also a mind shift because if we're moving as a cooperative, you're not going to have just one leader. We're all leaders, and everybody has to step up to the plate to be able to communicate and understand their value and their role and respect whatever process we have as a team in terms of making decisions and moving forward. And I think that has to be very clear. And if it's not, then once it's recognized that it's not clear, we have to figure out what we need to do to make sure that everybody's clear on the process and that we have that trust, you know, to be able to share information and know that that information is going to stay within our team and not go outside of that. And also that if we disagree and, you know, conversations may get hot and heavy, that we won't take it personal, that we do realize that that's part of our growth and that's part of where we are in our learning process and even in our team kind of mobilization in terms of moving forward in terms of growing and growth, you know. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense, right? And it's something that I hope we get across tonight, which is you got to be able to sit in the fire with your people, right? You got to be able to keep coming back to the table. How do you build trust? It takes time to build trust. It takes experience. You know, it takes to be trusted with something and to either show up or to not show up, and those are all opportunities to build trust on both ends. You know, because trust, building trust could also show up when you are trusted with something and you're not able to come through on it, and how the team comes through for you to help you or to help the team still move forward, right? Like it's gonna take time and experience to build trust. So you can't just discount it that it's there or not there off of one situation. You gotta give it time to materialize, I guess, and what I've experienced as well.
Sometimes you gotta, yeah. So go ahead. Sometimes you gotta unlearn some patterns too, because sometimes, like, you know, maybe you were in a situation where you couldn't trust too easily, and so it's like building that up again, you know. Sorry.
And that's a great, that the next slide is on trust, right? That's kind of where we were leading you. The Ajani Group, so we're a consulting co-op. We provide training, education, different services. And we actually started, before we became a co-op, we started by just building trust with each other and meeting to really just complain about what we weren't seeing out there in the co-op development movement. We met at a couple of conferences and things like that. And it was the conversations when we were out and after the training sessions that we realized that we had some kind of similar ideas about things. And then we just started meeting, like Sister Asada said, consistently. We before we even had a name of a business or of a co-op or of anything, we built trust by meeting weekly with each other just to say hi, just to say hello, just to bring what was going on, what we were working on, potentially help each other with different things, you know. But there was no real agenda for why we were meeting. We were just meeting to get to know each other. And we did that for a year before the idea of the Ajani Group came out and before the co-op was actually formed, you know. So it just took us creating space for each other to be who we were. You know, sometimes, you know, I would get on the call dealing with all of my kids and all of this stuff, and it was just a place for me to vent, you know, or to say, like, I really need help trying to do X, Y, Z, and I really need help with this. I don't have this type of experience. And then somebody on the team step in and say, hey, I know a little bit about that. Like, let's find some time outside of this to figure it out, right? We just, we took the time to get to know each other and to let that trust have an opportunity to build up, you know. Esther, you want to add anything to that?
Oh, yeah, just well, I think you hit the nail on the head, and like I think yeah, it's like it's really it's also kind of like stepping outside of like the traditional like capitalistic mindset to what do we want to build together in our lives? And what does that look like in practice as a community, you know? And I'm so grateful like for Johnny and like the community we've built and also the opportunities we've shared with each other. Like we'll say, hey, like my Ajani coworker owner would be great for this job, or we could go in on something together that we might not be able to do on our own, or they're looking for a few folks. And I just like really value the community and um yeah, I feel like we're kind of just getting started too. So even though it's been a couple years. So yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so I see in the, thanks Esther for that. I see in the chat, someone said, how did we come up with the name of Johnny? So Johnny, to our knowledge, is African for it's African language for he who wins the struggle. Um, Although most a good percentage of our group is actually female, but we got it's not all he, but it's think of it as we who wins the struggle. And so we came up with that name because we feel like again, like so much of the struggle in our communities, Black, Brown, Latinx communities, African American communities, is economic. And we all strongly believe that cooperatives are an avenue to build generational and economic wealth and to attack that. And that we all worked in the development arena of co-ops, and we didn't see people that look like the people on this call in a lot of the spaces where we were doing the work. And so we felt like we wanted to help our people win the struggle. So we came up with the name, the Johnny Group, and that's what we try and go out there to do. To help people win the struggle. Okay. So we sort of got into this a little bit, how to start finding members. Again, what do you look for in someone who you want to work with? Who do you already know? Where might you find the good people? Like I said, we met our you want to meet members in spaces that that are related to like the work that you're doing or the co-op that you're trying to build, or around where people may have the skills or experiences that'll help you get to where you're going. Like I said, we all met at a cooperative development conference, and through conversations learned that we had similar interests, and then we started to follow up on those different from the different networking opportunities. And some of our members, one of the members on the team, Gary Hampton, me and him actually worked together locally in Charleston. So we already knew each other and had been working with each other for years in just other areas, right? Before we even knew what a co-op was, right? So some of your members may be people that you already have existing relationships with, or you see have shared experiences or aspirations or visions on kind of where you want to go. Esther, you want to add anything to how people might find members?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You know, one, I talk about co-ops way too much to my friends, and so like so people kind of are familiar with them. It helps kind of wrap their head around it a little more, and then all right, they'll maybe learn a little more. Or you could also look through different depending on what your field is, you could look for partnerships, whether it's it could be industry based, or community related, and you could maybe share at an event like, hey, this is an opportunity, do a little marketing around your co-op, and see who's interested. um you may or may not want you may or may not want to accept everybody if you get a lot of folks coming to you, but you may too. It depends. You just want to kind of see how it goes, start building relationships with those folks, and yeah. So use your networks basically. Yeah, and develop those. Yeah.
Yeah, you can also do things like open houses, and invite people to a conversation or a community discussion about the co-op idea, and through those networking type things, you start to learn about who people are, what their interests are, and if you could potentially work with them down the line. And again, time, talent, treasure, and trust. I've been approached many times just because I have 3 letters behind my name to join different groups or co-ops or boards or things like that. Just because I'm a CPA, people will reach out because of the specific skill that they perceive that I have. And that's helpful too. You definitely want to make sure you're getting people on your team who have certain skills that would be good for business. That can't hurt, but all the other stuff has to match up too. Yeah. So with the steering committee, you want to make sure you're setting clear goals. What do we want to achieve? Roles. Who does what? When is it done? How is it done? You want to be sure to have interpersonal relationships, setting ground rules, how you interact with each other, and processes. How do we keep records, make decisions, and take action? And it's in a cycle because these are things that you are going to be continuously wrestling with and figuring out what the roles and responsibilities are within the steering committee and within the co-op. So, you guys ready for a little activity? Or no? Yes? No? Okay. So we have a little activity for you, right? So this is something you could do with your, once you get a group of people together, right? And you want to kind of see how everybody clicks on this, they should be able to open it. The spectrogram is an activity like you might do it in person. Like if we were in person, we might all stand on either end of the room, right? Where one end represents one viewpoint, one extreme, and the other end represents the other extreme, right? One of the things we talk about all the time is like everybody on your team, like you have to have varying different perspectives and the ways that you view things. like everybody on your team can't be a visionary and want to jump off a whole bunch of cliffs. You know, because at some point, you know, you're going to be doing too much, and everybody can't be so cautious or pessimistic that you miss out on opportunities, right? You know, so you got to have people on your team with various viewpoints and mindsets and ways to go about things, so you can have that comfortable tension to get at, you know, reasonable solutions, right? So spectrogram is one of the ways you could do that, right? So with this one, let's take a moment to see where people fall on any one of these spectrums, right? I'm an optimist. I generally think everything is going to be okay. I'm cautious. I try to foresee problems before they arise. I'm comfortable facing conflict head on. I avoid conflict at all costs. I trust people really easily, or it takes a lot for me to trust people. And then once we get done with this, you'll get a really good picture of if we were a steering committee, we would have a really good picture of kind of where the balance in our team is, right? Are we way more optimistic than we should be? Or, you know, that might inform the types of people or attitudes you want to start looking for to bring into your team to give it some more balance. So I'll put myself on here, like I am like way optimistic, right? I'm like probably off the off the charts optimistic. In terms of conflict, I tend to run towards conflict. I don't kind of run away from things all that much, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be so confrontational. And another thing I do is I trust people way easy, like I'm way over here, right? So if I'm on the team, you would see I need some other people to balance me out, right? Because I will be having big crazy visions and trusting everybody and not having nobody to kind of check me, right? So I need to have teammates that that probably think a little bit differently than me, or else I might end up getting into some trouble if I'm by myself. You know, so this is an exercise you can do with your team to just kind of have a conversation about like where you're at. You can also use this spectrogram for other things to help with other decisions that, for example, maybe you have like a marketing thing you want to do. Maybe it's a logo or something. You know, you could switch the spectrum up to have different ways people might view that that specific logo that you're trying to make, and then visually see like where people are at with it. Like, you know, do people really like it? Is there some things they can improve about it? Something like that. Like you can use this spectrogram in a bunch of different ways. It doesn't have to be just for these sort of mindset type questions. You know, it could get really specific as well. Anybody got any questions on this?
Where do folks fall on the different elements? Have you seen any of it play out in your own co-op?
Yeah, this is helpful. The co-op that I said that I really appreciate. You know, there's some polar opposites. Like I'm very optimistic, and and other people are not. They're not pessimistic, but they see all the challenges and barriers and identify them. And I think it's also interesting because in a work situation, I'm very trusting, right? Like I'm very trusting. I mean, I just it don't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but I feel, and that's a struggle for me because when other people have trust issues, I don't understand them. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, the person said they're gonna do it. I mean, why do you think they're not gonna do it? I mean, what's wrong? Like, you know what I mean? And so it's important to not just know yourself, but I think you said this, to know other people so you know that that's where they're leaning in at or from, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, this is helpful. But I see it playing out in my group. And I think not seeing them as kind of like they don't trust enough or they something enough, but that's the experiences that they've had that inform how they come to this work. And part of I think what makes us a good team is that we accept each other unconditionally, right? We really practice a lot of non-judgment, and that's helpful for people to kind of lean in.
Yeah, that's beautifully said, Sister Solid. Like this is more about seeing like understanding where we are and where other people are, where they coming from at their default. So that helps to prevent some of the feelings we get into and stuff and assumptions we start to make about ourselves and about other people. So being intentional about like doing this exercise with your team can help people learn more about each other. So, but yeah, all right. I think I'm gonna exit. It's my birthday, and I'm gonna turn it over to Esther.
Happy
Um,
birthday.
Happy birthday, friend. I wish you all the love, light, pure joy,
Happy
and
birthday.
foolishness that you can get into because you like a little foolishness.
yes.
Happy joy, joy.
Happy birthday.
Happy
I-
birthday,
thank
Maverick.
you. I hope this was useful and helpful
Yes.
so far. And Esther, I know you're gonna do great. And we'll talk soon, my friend. And love all
Sounds
of
good.
y'all.
Hey,
Y'all keep
hey,
up the great work.
Thank
hey,
And have a
Maverick,
good rest of your evening.
Maverick,
Appreciate it.
Yes.
you beat me by one day with the birthday.
Oh man. Okay. Okay.
Happy
Well,
birthday to
happy
you
birthday,
tomorrow.
happy early birthday to you.
Happy
Thank
birthday.
you, thank you. This definitely lifted my spirits. Like I'm feeling good. So
Oh,
I'm gonna let y'all continue learning though.
you're
So
the
I'll
best,
talk to
Maeve.
y'all soon.
All right,
Thank you,
take care.
Maverick.
Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye. See ya. Oh man. So Maeve is just the best. So you got me now. I appreciate y'all listening to me. But what if would you all like a 5 minute break? Would you like a little break? A quick, it's the hour mark. We have about almost an hour mark, and we have about an hour left. So maybe a 3 minute break. Let's just
Okay.
take a 3 minute break. I'll be right back. We'll be right back, and we'll keep going. Okay. All right. See you in a few minutes. Hey, I'm back. Let's see here. Get my screen share going. All right, if folks could just give a little thumbs up when you're back or show your screen and we'll get going in a minute. Hi, awesome. Thanks. Perfect. Um, Alrighty. Well, let's see. Let me do slideshow. Okay. So can you all see my screen, my slides here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Great. Ah, um, yeah, so we're just thinking about ourselves and how we work together and how our coworker owners and fellow cooperators work together, work with each other and view the world. And I think in my experience, it's been really important to open your mind of what you're capable of. And that can mean a lot of different things. And it may even be believing in yourself that you can do new things or stepping up to the plate. Um, so with co-ops, there's a lot of different hats that we wear as cooperators. So with starting a business is very multifaceted, right? There are lots of different elements to it. And we as cooperators often have to learn new skills or try something out. And I know that's what I've experienced with a bunch of the different co-ops I've worked at, and um, also that capacity to grow together. So even just like understanding each other's capabilities and your team's power collectively, even when there are troubles with your team, being able to have trust and faith in yourselves as a team and that you'll be able to get beyond something is really important. Well, while still taking care of yourself, that's key as well. So it's finding a balance. So you want to open your mind of what you're capable of in community with other people. And there's a phrase amongst worker co-ops in particular called that's work it, own it. Work it, own it. And this takes a lot of listening and talking, like Maeve was talking about earlier. So, and like we were talking about earlier. Let's see here. So let's do another breakout here. And our second one is talking about core values. Okay, oops. So let me delete the extra slide here. So we were talking about earlier too, like shared values. So even if we approach the world different ways or see things differently, it is really important that your steering committee or your fellow cooperators have core shared values. And if you don't have them, that can be very difficult in the long run, you know? Like I've seen different instances of folks, not always being paid enough in their co-op or um including myself, you know, um or uh you know what matters to us when we have to make a hard decision and make a choice, or say make a choice between having a pay increase or healthcare. These can be difficult conversations, but if you can understand that you all have these shared values, these core values, you can move forward together. So if you can go back to that link, I'll drop it in chat again. And if you can go to slide 15 and just pick up something, pick up one of those little red circles and circle a value that you circle up to like 5 values that are really important to you and key values, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Anyone need help or anything, or figuring out how to do that?
Yes.
Oops. Here we go. So, okay, so just like click on one of the little red circles at the top there once you get to the slide, and then you can just drag it and cover the value that you find important. Or, you know, a few values. Oop. Move it back here. All right, so yeah, so you know, again, everyone digests information differently, and everyone has different values that drive your own job satisfaction or sense of wholeness at your work or with your community. Um, what are some values that are important to y'all? What did you circle?
What was
And
your
how,
question? I'm sorry, I was still working on my little things. Oh, okay.
sorry, no worries. Sorry.
Community. I circled community,
Nice.
and I circled knowledge, and I circled curiosity. Yeah.
Excellent. Nice. How does those show up for you as a in your co-op work?
Well, that I'm focusing on my purpose for cooperation is to really support community, right? The community is really at the heart of what drives me. For me, right? So the benefit in a cooperative is that we are benefiting community, right? And then curiosity, is just like that's part of that thing about being open. Oh, I wonder why that person said that. Oh, I wonder why they did that, right? So curiosity keeps me out of judgment. So if I can stay curious and always wanting to learn, like I was at a wonderful, I was just telling someone today, they was like, you're taking a co-op class, and I was like, yeah, because like I'm just trying to continue to, grow my knowledge, right? Grow and be curious about how other people do things. So that's really important to me. And then, of course, knowledge, information. I always want to, when we were at the convening with Ron, I was trying to say, no, I'm trying to figure out what are the components of this thing. Like I want to create knowledge that can be passed down to other people, right? I want that to be something we do. We share knowledge. So anyway, that's how it shows up for me. It drives me. And then it drives the things I'm going to focus on in the co-op, like membership. I'm going to want to do training. So anyway, my work assignments follow kind of my values.
Yeah, I love that. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I Something that stood out to me was when you said, you know, curiosity prevents you from being judgmental. And I'm like, oh, that was a good one. Thank you. Appreciate that. let's see here. Yeah. Um, even though it's like a co-op handbook manual. Yeah, like what would that look like for your group? Um, in the chat, I see loyalty, balance, respect, community balance, open-mindedness, spirituality. Yeah. Does anyone else want to share how your values that you circled show up in your engagements as a cooperator?
Well, I like having fun.
Nice. Yes. Right. I agree.
I like being able to do the hard work, get done what needs to be done, but also to have it be something that is energizing and exciting and fun and lifting, to everybody who's involved. And not like a drudgery and a burden and, it's something on my back that I got to do, but something that I enjoy. I'm doing it because I enjoy it and it makes me happy. And when I incorporate all of the values that are important to me and to other people, and we have a collective consciousness, then we can lift each other up and have a good time doing what we're doing. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. That's something I really appreciate about co-ops, We try to have fun while we're doing it and see ourselves as whole people,
Yes.
Marvin, were you going to say something?
Yeah. The first one that stood out to me was stability, then reputation. Really all of them are applicable, but those two stood out the most because keeping in mind, I'm the safety guy. Right now I'm working a contract with Warwick Community College, and I'm the safety coordinator, and I still run my business, MVP Safety Trainings. And some of the key takeaways that I stress on in my trainings is stability, because if you're properly trained and you have a safety conscious, you will have stability with a company because you're saving the company money. So it's advantageous, it's beneficial for the company to take that person with these certifications to make them a lead man, supervisor, or even manager. So that piggybacks on reputation. So coming in the door, although you have the certification, you get the hands-on qualification, and that goes with a lot of our participants that we will be training, because look at the modality that we'll be training. A lot of them are recently released from prison or coming from Department of Labor or welfare or even the streets, or maybe they do have a history of working, but never have been properly safety trained. And these are some of the things we have to reinforce in them to develop a safety conscience, reputation. Because although the construction field or the general industry field is huge, if you get a bad name, it shrinks. It shrinks so much, whereas to all these companies would know that you're not the person to hire, and you may have to work in another state.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So reputation is a big one. Stability, that's those just stuck out to me, and I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Agree with that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you're building on your name.
That's all you have.
That's
Is your
all you
name.
have. Is your
That's all you have. And if
Yeah.
you miss, you only get one shot at it. One shot. You mess that name up, you might as well move out the state.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I think it also like you're talking about like, like who are you working with? What industry are you in? What
Yeah,
values are good matches for those too?
yeah,
Because it makes a lot of sense to me what you're
yeah.
saying and why you choose those,
And
and
another thing, and I'm pretty sure Kim can expound on this in regards to your reputation. It don't just stop at work.
Mhm,
It's your private life too. You start
mhm.
to advance in these companies at lead person, supervisor, or manager, and you got these negative Facebooks or all this other crap going on, you know, and your colleagues can see this stuff.
Hmm.
No
Yeah.
matter what you may display at work or at your job, they see the real you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that element of character and who we are as a whole person, like
Yeah, it's holistic. You know,
yeah.
sometimes see a lot of people try to say, oh, I separate my work life from my personal life. If you're a professional across the board, right? You're a professional
Yeah.
across the board, because people are not going to say, oh, I see you're a clown in your personal life, oh, but at work you're a professional. You'll never hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. So yeah, like I think this speaks to another reason to like do this exercise with folks at your co-op. If you want, you can, or talk about this, you know what I mean? Talk about what your values are in general, because
Yeah,
these types of things can come up
yeah, yeah,
and maybe you can get each other thinking, as a
yeah,
as a team.
yeah. You're on a team in a co-op, right?
Hmm.
And you have credentials, you got letters behind your name, and sitting in that chair, you got suit and tie, you're looking good. But there's rumors about your private life. There's all kind of things floating. Come on, you know that,
Yeah.
that that's going to weigh in. That's going to weigh in. And these, I know we talking about business, we talking about the co-op, but what about the personal life or that personal aspect of that person? It's about character, right? You're not
Mm.
just going to have good character at work. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
I think it
I
also,
see a Sata. Oh yeah, go ahead. Hmm.
no, I was going to say it also goes back to what Asata was saying earlier about caring about each other.
Oh
When
yeah.
you care about each other and you're in a community or you're on a team, then you recognize that it's no longer just me and them or me and you, it's we
Oh wow.
and
Wow.
us. And
Yes.
so what I'm doing and saying is impacting you.
Right.
You
You're right.
know, what I'm doing and saying in my life. And so it's a different level of responsibility. It's that dimensional piece where, and it's good for character building, because then you get to love and support people and be honest with them about how what they're doing and saying is impacting you and impacting what you're attempting to do together,
Yes.
about really caring.
So can
And
I
the
say,
other side of that, the other side of that too, Marvin, is
yeah,
communicating, because everything you hear isn't true. And
That's
right.
so
true.
if you are hearing things,
Hmm.
part of the relationship and the trust is to communicate with your members. And it's a difficult conversation to have, but those
Yeah.
are the types of conversations that need to be had so
But
that
you
the
know what?
team can
Hmm.
grow.
Yeah,
But you
that's
know
right.
what, Lynn, to piggyback, I was just about to say that when you in a co-op, you cannot have thin skin. We have to respect one another enough to be honest. Honest enough to say, you know what, we want the same thing, we have the same goals, but you know what, I see an obstacle and we have to address this.
Yeah.
You cannot have thin skin, you cannot.
Mhm.
I see Asada raised her hand. Go ahead. Go ahead, Asada. Mhm.
I just want to say that I believe in the core. One, I want to put like this is a Black Co-op Academy. And I think that understanding the history of people of African descent is, for me, I always think about how that has shaped our relationship with work, right? And co-ops for me are a place where work can be a source of healing and not a source of trauma and more continued suffering.
Go
So I
ahead,
think
sis.
when we think
Go
about
ahead,
people of
sis.
African descent, we have to understand that I understand that when I'm engaging people, you know, in work, that they're bringing that history and that trauma with them, right? And one of the things about work for Black people and for people, but particularly for Black people, is the adversarial nature of that, right? And so we feel that they're trying to do us wrong, and we we think that, you know, that we're being done wrong, right? And we try to do them wrong. And I just want to give one example with our construction co-op. You know, I have always worked in like the payroll part, the, you know, kind of business operations. And, you know, Gregory, who you guys know, and others work in the field. And we had this guy in every payroll, his time wouldn't be correct, right? And I would want to just figure it out, right? But what was happening is that the person that was, you know, the lead on the project, you know, had a trust issue. So he would fill out the timesheets for them and have them sign. And because he had just had a situation where he had got fired, and I brought him into the office, and I was like, "So what's going on? I want to get this right." He was like, "No, I don't want to talk about it. It don't matter. You know, I get." And I was like, "No, I want to get it right. So tell me what I can do. So next time it's payday, you don't have to come." You know what I mean? Like it could just be easiness. And he told me what was happening, right? And he said, and I don't want to say anything because the last time I said something, the people, you know, fired me, right? So again, you know, that's a situation where even though we're trying to do business, that's the thing. My job is to invest in this person and help this person feel better about the work that's happening in our relationship, right? And so I just want to say, you know, this conversation is making me think about something, right? Like, it's not just the values I have, and brother, to your point, it's the values I want to have, but I haven't felt like I've been able to develop them or hold them because I live in a certain kind of world and a situation, right? But I want to be honest, right? I want to be a person that can be dependent upon, right? But I struggle with that, whatever, right? So part of, I like this exercise is that saying, these are the values I have now, but these are the ones I aspire to, right? For myself and for others, right? Because I think, you know, part of co-ops is our aspirations. And our aspirations aren't just economic. They're social, they're cultural, they're spiritual, right? They're part of healing. I got aspirations to heal. And I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna close like a minister. I was just at the dentist, and it rattled me so much being at the dentist because I was telling my love collaborator, it brings up my childhood trauma of being at the dentist as a little girl in a very hostile environment, right? And every time I go to the dentist, I cry. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm just so tired of this, right? When can I just be over this, right? And I don't know if I am ever going to be over it, right? But I want a space where I can say, that's what I'm going through, and people embrace me and support me, right? Because as a Black person, we just have so much trauma. It's just everywhere. And when we get into working together and we're talking about our money, and the way in which we provide for ourselves and for our children, and we don't ever have enough, and we always feel like people shorten us, stuff bubbles up. And so I think, you know, like, I think one of the values would be healing, right? I have a value for healing in a space in which we can heal. But I just want to say, I like co-ops because you don't have to come already together. You just have to come being willing to get it together a little bit more every day. And that's why I
Thank you. That's
Well said, my sister.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
really appreciate what you're sharing. Um, yeah. Man,
It certainly is a statement of trust, to be able to share in that way and to know that you would be received by all of us. So I just want to acknowledge you for your courage. I always think it takes courage to be able to share those things that are so deeply imprinted in us, and to share it in such a loving and, oh, I don't know what the word would be, but just such a, I mean, your words touched me deeply. And my love for you really is very much in my heart right now. I mean, I don't even know you, but I know that I love you. And so I just want to thank you for having the courage, the trust to share such a important aspect of who you are. I just want to thank you for that. And this is Madeline.
Thank you,
speaking.
Madeline. Thank you for holding me.
Absolutely. I want to acknowledge you. I want you to know that we are with you. I am with you. I'm holding you right now. And I just want to thank you for who you are and for your courage to share who you are with us in this moment. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm here for you.
Thank you, sister.
I'm here with you. Absolutely.
thank you so much, Asada. That, yeah, I think that really like touched all of us, and like, yeah, I appreciate, and I appreciate the space, like, so thanks to, the network for developing conscious communities, because this space wasn't always around, like, and where we could all connect across the country, or people could connect across the country. And you know like, I'm not African American, but I'm Latino and Chicana, and like, I really value our communities and us working in solidarity, and it really means a lot to be here together. So, appreciate it. And appreciate your sharing your thoughts, and words. Let's see here. Hmm, let's see here. So I was wondering, I can talk. I had planned I had planned to talk about some, like how do you put structure to some of this team building once you get into a co-op, like I plan to talk about some, like worker co-op education, and developing how do we develop our team through worker co-op education and member education. Just some different specifics about that. Would that still be of interest? Or we could also keep talking about, the other experiences we had, or I have a chart with like different examples of things that could arise that we could talk through the last half hour. Yeah, I thought I'd just ask y'all what you're interested in. What stage of operation are your co-ops at? Has your co-op, which has it started operations? Is it still in the planning phase?
We're learning and educating ourselves so that we can start planning based on our vision and our ideas. There is some collective consciousness around a vision and ideas for wellness modalities, cooperative wellness in every sense of the word, not just physical health, but mental and spiritual, and all of that, so that people can be whole people and know that they are well. And so those ideas are there, but the actual structure and formation of it is what we're educating ourselves here for.
Okay. Sounds good. Anyone else want to share their co-op and just like where you're at right now and kind of what might be most helpful? Or...
Well, I'm gonna say actually this is Abundantly Wealthy Stan.
Yeah.
I'm on Burnett's team, and I don't want to just say ditto, but pretty much ditto, because I'm in the health and wellness arena, and the wellness modalities is really resonating with me. And when Burnett presented the thought process and the ideas, like, this is great, and she found out about the co-op and everything, I said, well, this is definitely something we want to do. And every time I even think about it, I think about, there's an old African saying that says, together the ants ate the elephant. And as we pool our resources in this, but in such a great structured manner, we're having the power of a conglomerate, but yet in the same, discipline or modality, if you will. So yes, this is pretty good. And I like the exercise today. I like all of that. So this is really bringing it around, making it very real. A lot of work has been done in this already. And so I'm looking to learn so we can be successful at this.
Nice. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Well, let me plug in my computer real quick here. I'm sorry.
I'd like to see what's on some of the rest of your slides. I mean,
Already? Yeah. Well, I'll go through that then. I'm sorry, my computer.
This is Lynn. I'm on Kimberly and Marvin and Eartha's team. And we have not started the co-op yet. Part of us taking this class is part of our research and training and helping us develop an idea of how we want to move forward. And we're also in the midst, 3 out of 4 of us are also in the midst of launching a nonprofit that will be the incubator of the co-op. And so kind of working through that nuance as well, and also getting to know each other and learn each other in terms of our working styles and how to communicate and all of that good stuff. And so it's an exciting journey. It's a tough journey, but it's an exciting journey, but I think it's worth it. I think we all come to the table wanting this and just figuring out how to go about it in a way that it encompasses everything that we talked about tonight. I think by far this class is the one that is really sitting not only with my heart tonight, is sitting with my heart, but it's also sitting with my mind as well. And so I'm thankful. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm like, there's a lot to digest now. I really appreciate everyone's sharing. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing where you're at here. Let me see here. I'm sorry, I have to figure out my computer real quick here, but I'll keep going, and I'll just keep going then and share a little more. And all right. Okay, I think I got it. I think I got my computer plugged in. I apologize. It's a little embarrassing. Yeah, thank you.
we're forgiving.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm glad. Thank you. Yeah. So, well, I'll just share like a lot of the next section, next, part of the presentation I have is through a lot of it's through my experience being a worker owner at Equal Exchange, which was the first fair trade coffee company in the US. And it started in 1986, and I was there 08 to 13. And I was education committee co-chair and in their education committee throughout the whole time. And that's where like I got plugged in through my dad, and then through there to the broader co-op world, worker co-op movement. And have worked with a bunch of co-ops since as well. So that's where some of this is coming from. Just so you know, I'm like, just where this is coming from. It's not just Allen Blue, it's, and so yeah. Oh yeah, some of my experiences, how I made adjustments for sure. What are you thinking about in particular? Anything in particular with adjustments or like experiences, Josephine? I see your question in chat. Like, do you have anything in particular you're thinking of?
Just in general, what you've experienced since you've been in corps.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
since we're new and we're just starting out, so
Gotcha.
yes.
I see. Okay. What I always tell people, just here's what my takeaway is. Maybe co-ops are a tool. They are not the end all be all. They can be used, they are a great tool. They are wonderful structure. They can be used in a way that wields beautiful results that you wouldn't get in the traditional capitalist economy, white supremacist economy. But they are not in and of themselves. There's still a lot of unlearning to do. A lot of unlearning from a lot of whether it's how we engage with each other at work. That's a whole new mindset as a co-worker owner. You engage with each other differently. You see yourself and your responsibility differently. You see other people a little differently and more like equals, and like you each have power. And what's that mean in the situation? What does it mean for how you work together? And that could potentially be a very volatile situation, but it can be a very exciting, beautiful, special one, like full of like grace, where you learn how to grow together, you learn how to work together. And I feel like that for me, like that's been a journey, I feel like we've like really like grown in how we like work together. And some of the folks I mainly met through Ajani, or I met them once or something, and now we're good friends, and we kind of know how we think and work together. And that's really cool, so there's a lot of potential there. But it's like building something, like, it really is building something together. And you have to make a conscious effort to build. Yeah, that's like something that's a major thing for me, with co-ops. So yeah, I'll go ahead and just share these other things, and feel free to just chime in if you have any thoughts or questions or anything, okay? So yeah, let's see here. I see a question. What's the one thing that surprised me? Maybe what I just said, even that it's not like I went in thinking very optimistically that it was kind of the end all be all, and then that it wasn't perfect. There's still some, like whether it's gender issues, um, like or race or identity, whatever it is, those things are still there. or just people disagreeing. Like, should we pay ourselves enough? Like, how much should we pay each other ourselves? You know, who has a say in that? So, so it's not always like, you know, big injustices. It can be like things like, okay, we just disagree. But yeah, but again, that's where like the building part comes in, you know. So yeah. Excuse me. So your steering committee can align with your company's, you know, you want to align that work and focus with your company's strategic goals. Maybe it's sales, you know, you know, often we have to think about sales, even though it's just one part, you know, usually in a business that's like the thing. In co-ops, it's a part of a broader thing, you know. But it's still there. It's still very important. Oftentimes. So you want to think about sales, it might be sales or climate justice, maybe your strategic goals are around climate justice, or developing a more just supply chain, like with fair trade and equal exchange, right? Or another mission. So you want to make sure folks are on board with that. I've seen co-ops like in the early stages be thrown off if somebody is not on board, even with the fundamental element of workers having the final say or the members having the final say. I've seen a lot of examples of people who are not part of the co-op directly, like aren't going to be members, but they want to give money to it and be active with supporting it. And they have money and they give that money to the co-op and they say it's free of their own influence. But then when something happens they don't like, they suddenly want to have more of a say than the members do.
Mm.
So you got to be really aware of, again, like these things that do have power in our society, like money and influence, and just like being really aware of like, how's that being used? Be aware of that. Be very clear with people if they do give you money, like who has the final say. This is a democratic entity, you know. Once I had someone at Equal, when I was working at Equal Exchange, you know, I was like 24 or something, and 25, and like one of our investors, outside investors who does not have a vote, you could invest in Equal Exchange without having a vote. They're like, yeah, I invest all this money, but I don't get to vote on anything. And they look at me and I'm like, well, I'm not sympathetic. I'm a worker owner. Like, you know, this is a worker owned co-op, you know, like, like goodness, you know, so you got to remember like, this is about creating a new system, a new entity, you know. And yeah, and so you can have a core steering committee while still having like subcommittees, you know, which are kind of like precursors to the board committees, or maybe the board is the steering committee and then you have subcommittees depending on where you're at in your operations and setup. If it's a small co-op, maybe everyone's on the steering committee, like if there are only 4 people. Otherwise, you can start to develop like, all right, you're head of marketing, you're head of sales, you're going to manage the restaurant, you know, the front end, that sort of thing. And then start like teasing apart some of those roles and responsibilities. The co-op can be hierarchical, like with management, like a traditional management structure. That's what we had at Equal Exchange, or not. But you still have that worker owner body, which is democratic and makes decisions on the big things that are going to impact everybody. Okay. And practices are like was mentioned before, regular meetings, get on the same page, having committees, and then bring those to the full group for discussion. Like maybe a committee goes off and does research and comes back, you know. And steering committees and good business. So you can benchmark where your work from by gathering feedback from members, from customers, from outside board members. Like maybe you have an outside steering committee member, just so you're not all in your same head, you know, because it can be easy to, I mean, it can happen where a co-op group is all on the same page, you know, you're really excited. And maybe someone has expertise that you're missing that fills in a gap. Like maybe you're missing branding expertise. So you hire someone who's done some marketing and branding, you know, on your steering committee. Yeah, fresh ideas, exactly. Here's like a transition period example, like building your bridge from preparing your co-op to implementing it into operations. So, and these don't have to go in order, they often don't, but these are elements you'll want to think about: your bylaws or operating agreement, depending on if you're incorporating as a corporation or LLC. And then you can have an interim board. So, you know, often the articles will require you to put someone down as the board, and then maybe within half a year you elect, the new membership formally elects a board after you've hired a few new members. Okay, then they elect the board. You want to implement voting and decision-making processes, so making sure everyone's on the same page with how you make decisions together. You get your first members, you have a member body going, and ongoing board committees, and you know, those are some elements to establishing your co-op. And with a strong team, you know, like we were talking about, you want to show up for each other. We've talked about this some, you know, and that shared values and that trust, right? So once you hit operation, I want to talk about some co-op specific structures for team building that are like, kind of like, to me, I think of these structures as like built-in team building structures. So we'll talk about governance, practicing decision-making and voting, worker owner track, and member education. So if you think of your whole co-op as a team and how you want to work together, then you can start getting into governance, how you want to work together, how you want to make decisions together. So, you know, like, and with co-op governance, you know, it's really important to communicate and make decisions in a cooperative way. So that's not always that common, right? And it's something that successful co-ops really need to invest in. And it's a really big topic, but you also want to distinguish governance and how you make decisions together from operations.
Yes.
So governance are the big picture ideas that affect many people or everyone in the co-op. These things are big deals topics, you know, like big deal topics, like, and it's a place for the members to use their voice and their power, exert their power over their own, you know, co-op, right? Whereas the operations are like the daily to-dos, getting the work done and implementing the work, right? How do you implement that vision? Once you've made the decision, how do you implement it in operations? And especially in a new co-op where these things are being figured out, that space of holding space for a steering committee can help connect some of the dots and tease out these different roles and responsibilities. Because at the start, sometimes everyone can kind of be doing everything. And often there is overlap, you know, between what people are doing, because it's also fundamental. It's all important. But at some point, you'll kind of want that help, you know, to think about teasing out what you're doing and where it goes in the long run. So you want to think about, which hat are you wearing and how do you know which hat you're wearing? So maybe, you know, you have your worker owner hat or your member hat, right? And so you're wanting to think, okay, as let's say, okay, so I'm going to use the example of salary, okay, or how much you're paid, as because, you know, it's very like fundamental, right? So as a worker owner or a member, if I'm a worker owner, I want to make sure I get paid enough. I need to get paid enough. The board of directors, they're looking at the big picture, the budget, and the staff, they're looking at the big picture too. But the board is thinking, okay, do we have money to pay everybody more? That's what they're asking. Should we use it on giving everyone healthcare instead? Or, and hopefully you have members on that board of directors, because that's really important to have those say, everyone that needs to have a say. And then staff might be thinking, all right, they might have their worker owner hat on too, because they're workers. So they may say, I need more money to keep working here to make this viable for me. Management might be thinking either, I've seen, you could argue either way, like I want to save money, like my department not to overspend. Or management could say, I want to make sure we're paying people enough to get good people. So they're kind of two sides of the coin. And then heads of departments might be thinking along similar lines. And how do we get funding for more pay? So there are different hats that folks are wearing around this same topic, right? It's really useful to practice decision-making and voting. So by starting up on like lower stakes decisions, so when you're starting up, you can practice making decisions together. So you have low stake decisions like, all right, let's vote on where we're going to eat lunch together, or let's figure out where we're going to eat lunch. We have a vegetarian, everyone else eats meat. What are we going to do, versus like high stakes, which is like the pay, like, oh God, it's stressing me out already, right? Like, no, I'm just kidding. Um, so you want to start with practicing your process on things that you generally already agree on or that are low stake. And that'll help prepare you and get in the habit of doing that when things are hard. Techniques are straw polls, non-official votes, official votes, and you want to start documenting your decisions in meeting minutes right away. Because you know what? As soon as it's hard, it's hard. You don't want that to fall apart, and you don't want your work to fall apart. You want to have systems in place so that you're like, all right, you can trust each other. You got this. It's going to be hard and difficult, but that's okay because you know that you've developed these skills together. And, make enough time in these decisions for discussion or research that needs to be done before a vote or collective decision. Like there may be a timeline, like a date or time frame way out or soon, but hopefully you have a little buffer time and you don't have to make a decision right away. You can pause even though it feels urgent and say, all right, what is our time frame? Can we have space to just breathe and do some research and talk and let things digest and talk together? Oh, usually you'll have an appointed note taker, and that's often a secretary. Like if you have a board, it'd be the secretary. Otherwise, you can just appoint someone or ask someone to volunteer, or you could rotate volunteer note taking. And then that person can send out the notes. And then at the next time you meet, you all look at the notes together and say, hey, does anyone have any edits? And someone might say, you misrepresented what I said. Let me type it out myself. Okay, now I approve the notes. Okay. I've done that before. It's okay. We all I know, or I have not taken perfect notes either, so that's an example. Also with practicing decision-making and voting, like some voting tips are deciding what counts. So early on, it might help to start deciding if you want majority vote or unanimous vote, or percentage of the vote has to, to make it a pass. So maybe like collectives are examples of everyone has to be unanimous. Whereas with co-ops, you can there's some wiggle room. Okay, at Equal Exchange, I think it was like certain types of votes. Most votes were 66%, like 2/3. But some very some votes on specific really big topics had to be like 75%. And we were like 100 people at the time.
So are you using Robert's Rules of Order? Is that what you're using on this?
I am not, but I'm not I'll be honest, I'm not real familiar with those.
Okay.
I should be,
It's kind
right?
of standard. Yeah.
Yeah. So it may overlap. I'm just not sure myself.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I should know this. But yeah, does it look like this, Bernadette?
Yeah, Robert Rules of Order. They just kind of give you a structure and framework for
Mhm.
how you do voting. If you have a quorum, you don't have a quorum, or who can vote and when. It's a kind of standard operating procedure in order,
Nice.
creating some order. I know we use it on our church board.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The
I
more I learn about co-ops, the more I realize that our church is a co-op.
no, right?
Pretty
Right?
much.
Isn't that
Yeah.
so true? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah, I feel that. That's awesome. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then with co-ops, one thing that can be contentious sometimes, but hopefully not, but with co-ops, members are the ones that have the final vote. So you might have a case where someone's on worker owner track and they haven't been voted in as a member. So they can maybe you let them sit in on the meetings to observe. Maybe they even get to have a say, but in the end of the day, in a co-op, members will vote on these bigger topics based on the bylaws. So legally, but that being said, you can certainly have decide on things that are that are voted by everybody. So I'm not trying to it's like maybe pay is something that only members vote on, but you also don't want to like exclude people from things that are not like, so I don't know, you want to have a culture of participation where people feel good and empowered and know that they will be a vote, and there will be a vote, a clear path to worker ownership for them. So you don't want to like disenfranchise people either, right? Yeah. And then quorum, deciding how many people need to be present to vote. So some worker owner track things to keep in mind are time, how long. So worker owner track to me is like, okay, so like how long, like what does it mean to become a member in this co-op? In your co-op, what's it like? What do you have to do to become a member? A full-on member. So you want to think about time. How long do workers need to work before they become a member? That could be by like a months or a years. It could be by hours worked. Education, what do workers need to learn before before becoming a worker owner? Like it's important maybe they attend a co-ops 101. Okay. Or they attend 3 board meetings and observe, that sort of thing. Work it, own it. Is the person a good fit and worker for your co-op? You know, we were talking about this earlier, with values. And then the big vote. The existing worker owner body membership votes on whether or not to induct that person as a worker owner. You have to answer before, can that person keep working if they are not voted in? Or if they don't want to be voted in? Do you want people working at your co-op that are not wanting to be members? That's kind of serious, So you want to think, is that a good mission alignment or not? And then once they're voted in, they purchase their 1 voting share. And you can make that, whatever price your co-op decides on. So member education. So yeah, so it's education on co-ops, but also participatory education. You want to think about how you do education. And decision-making, decide how you want to run your co-op together. Builds leadership, collective leadership, keeps you growing. You know, every day is dynamic. Every new person is going to make your co-op dynamic. And unpack your understanding of things like individual ownership versus collective, and each person's responsibility, what it means to listen. What does it mean to listen to each other in this context? And what does it mean to use your voice too? So we don't have time for breakout, but that's, you know, maybe could you maybe put in chat just for time? I'm sorry. Like, what do you think it's important for workers to learn before they become worker owners? Yeah, Lynn. Mhm.
I apologize. I had a question on one of the slides.
Oh yeah.
Where it talked about yes, it talked about individual ownership versus collective ownership. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the difference between those two for us.
Yes, sure. So this is actually a thing that I've seen that has like made co-ops go under, is when people don't unlearn what it means to be an owner from as an individual. So sometimes I've seen people like almost like vie to be like the managerial kind of position or the one leader, because that's what we're taught in society, that's what that means to be an owner. And if you're telling people they're owners, that may not mean the same thing to you and them, right? Or to these different contexts. So you have to talk about what that means in this context. So that individualistic attitude can mean more competition between the worker owners and struggles, like personality dynamics or other power struggles, and it feels really bad. It doesn't feel good. So you want to make sure that folks are really able to unpack for themselves what it means to be an owner in this setting. Yeah. Does that explain it?
This is Madeline. I don't think it's left to an individual to decide what ownership means for them. I think it has to be a conversation about what does membership mean to all of us? What does ownership mean to all of us? I think it's so essential and important for the group to have those discussions and to make those decisions. And that's why I think that the conversation about values is essential, because the values are going to be what drives our behavior. That's right. And there has to be agreement about our behavior, our collective behavior. So I would urge us to really be much more clear about what values can we stand on together? What does our vision look like for all of us collectively? What's our mission as an organization? Can we all stand on that mission?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the real learning is for all of us, and where the coming together in such a way that we establish that we are creative enough to lay out before us those things that we can agree on, that we can share, that we can stand together on, that we can heal together on, that we can move forward in a way that is fulfilling to all of us.
Beautifully said. Yep. Yeah. I feel like, yeah.
What comes to my mind from what you said, Madeline, is a process of consensus building
Yes,
where we get to
absolutely.
communicate back and forth until we recognize our oneness on a
Absolutely.
topic or issue or whatever, that it's possible. You know, you got to be working with a group of people who are open enough to be able to build, be willing enough to build consensus.
And to know that that's part of the agreement that we have as we come together.
Yeah.
We're trying to build that in corporations can certainly be done. It can certainly be done.
But
It's always a struggle because everyone has their own agenda.
yeah.
But with this, if we can come together as one, if we can, you know, I'm one with each person here. I'm one. We have come to agreements in a way that we can come together in relationships of unity, of oneness.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
I agree.
Yeah. Like, you know, these are not like just word. These are not, we are putting these words into action, you know, and that's really powerful.
Yes. I mean, this is so, it's so spiritual also. I mean, I you know, when I looked at the values, you know, this is a spiritual experience. And I mean, that's where the trust comes in. That's where the vision comes in. That's where, you know, knowledge and justice and love. And someone had said, you know, I want to be more curious so that I can be less judgmental. I mean, that's exactly what curiosity means, that I don't have to judge people around me. I'm not judging people. I am curious about them. And so I want to be able to ask questions about how they came to their conclusion without judging them, really appreciating them. So it's, you know, I really, I mean, it's exciting to think about coming together this way. And there's work to build it, to really connect with each other in authentic and trusting ways, in loving ways.
And I like that the value part. I think there's so much needed today, right? In the value, right? But also I think that in the beginning, if you start off with the level of expectation, like what you expect from people or the people who are going to be members or people that are within the organization, like what's your level of expectation, so nobody comes in and not knowing what we expect from them, but also the members having an expectation from the organization as well, so that it works both ways. And I've learned that when you set a level of expectation, I used to run a girls mentoring program. So I set the level of expectation like at the beginning, like very high, right? And so they knew from the beginning that I had a level of expectation from them from the time they entered the room to the time they exit the room, but even when they're not in my presence, right? So I think that it is very important too. And I think that the more I learn about this cooperative, so I'm on grandma duty right now. So
I can hear the baby.
Well, that's a value. That's an important value.
my daughter's studying for her real estate license, right? So I gave her a couple of time. So
He's like, you gonna give me some attention.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah,
He's clear about his values.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So this is saying that is that when I look at the kind of resources and the buying power that we have as a collective, especially in the African American community, and how if we use our buying and spending power amongst each other and have our money circulate around each other in these different cooperatives, that's a powerful, valuable, beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mama, I gotta go now. I'm gonna turn my mic off.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I just really appreciate everyone here and appreciate your listening to me, and I appreciate your sharing because I feel like like you get what you put in, and I feel like a lot was beautifully put in today and shared together, and and feel free to use that PowerPoint if you want. We've got some, the exercises and the little, like, there's also like a slide with a bunch of scenarios that I've seen in different co-ops that you can talk through with your co-op. So it's a little safer because it's like, oh, this is just a scenario that we got, it's part of the thing. And start building that discussion base and with your own team. And yeah, I'm so grateful for all of you and what you're doing, and appreciative to get to meet you too. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Esther, is your
Well,
contact information in the slides?
It should be, if
no,
it's not.
it's in the speakers directory that we sent out.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Esther, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. And
Thank
thanks to Maeve. Yeah. Yeah.
And thank Mavie too,
I
as
will,
he's gone
yeah.
off to celebrate his birthday.
Yeah.
Yes,
totally.
yes.
Yes, thank you
Right.
so very much. This was very good, very informative. Your
Thank
voice is just way too calming. Just so.
Oh,
smooth.
nice. Oh, good. Thank you. Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, folks,
right,
we've
take
come to the
care.
end of another session,
Thank you.
and
Good stuff.
I hope that everybody was able to gain something out of this discussion that you can use as you plan out, your activities around either starting a steering committee, or if you go directly towards putting together a board. I think there were a lot of useful conversations that went on in tonight's presentation that can help you, guide you along the way. Anna, who we have next week?
We have sorry, I'm a little sick, but we have organized movement for building cooperatives is the session name, and the presenter is Dr. Julia Capelango.
Okay.
She's director of operations at Homage to Black Excellence.
Oh,
which
great.
is an organization.
Well, great. Well, folks, looking forward to another heightened conversation. I shared with Mavie about raising the bar, and everyone has come in has raised the bar. And so you raised the bar as well, Esther, this evening. So thank you. So
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you
very
immensely.
much.
Thank
All
you.
right, folks.
Bless you so.
Well, I'll
Thanks,
see you all
Rob.
next week.
All
All right. And
Yes.
you'll get this,
Bye.
and you'll
Bye.
get this recording out probably by Monday, I think. Right? By Monday? Yeah, you'll have it by Monday.